Hey, welcome to another Friday fireside chat that is not in front of the computer, aka the fire, but in front of the whiteboard. If you're new to the channel, sometimes I'll put a little fire in the background, so that's what I mean by fireside chat. Want to do the whiteboard here because we have some numbers I want to go over and some chains of logic that just make it a little bit easier to see. And I'm going to do my best to stay composed. I'm going to do my best not to lose it, but this is the stuff that really just because I get it, this can come across as maybe cliche or a sales pitch, but I really do want people to succeed. So when I see stuff like this, which is the absolute opposite of putting yourself on the pathway to success, it does just, But anyways, I'm gonna try to stay calm, okay? So I got this email, and I will be the first to admit, it is extreme, but it all revolves around the concept that free is not free. And knowledge can come in a couple different forms. The main form is, if I pay for knowledge, if I pay for education, then I need to learn how to make money. Totally fair and very logical. You are correct. But there's another side here that you're also, assuming you get a quality program, you're also going to learn about that comes in the form of knowledge. And I'm going to show some numbers here where you really should look at it as an investment into education, not an expense, not I have to spend money on my education. No, an investment, because an investment is going to give you returns, right? ROI, return on investment. And you're going to see here kind of, I think, one of the hidden areas of how education works, but also just why free is not free. And I don't blame this person, because when you are new and you don't know what you don't know, then you don't really know what you actually should be learning from certain situations. And that'll make more sense after I get through this. But like I said, I'll be the first to admit this is very extreme. But as I've said in many other videos, and I'll probably say a couple more times in this video, just imagine if things can get this extreme, imagine all the gray area out there that exists. It's actually quite scary. And again, it makes that much more sense why failure rates are at 90% and even higher. So Don says, I had just opened an account to invest, been thinking about it for years. Retired, so was trying to figure out how I can add income. So everything has doubled in cost the last few years. Looking for advice. Took your take on USMJ, so one of the video charts that I do. If you're not familiar, I'll take a chart, map out some supports, resistance levels, very, very, very basic stuff. And give it a try, as this CBD stuff is supposed to be the next big thing. I don't know what CBD is, but I guess it's supposed to be the next big thing. That's why I started an account. Took savings and thought I could make some money off your report. Again, my report is simply a video chart talking about supports, resistance levels, something very basic. In fact, it's so basic that some people actually make fun of me for it. Down in the, believe it or not, in the YouTube comment section, people actually talk trash if you're not aware. But some people talk trash in the form of, that is so basic, anybody knows this stuff. And I'm not denying, it is basic, but I want it to be basic because those videos are intended for people that have no idea what a technical chart even is. But my point here is that they're looking at this very, very basic thing as some sort of report, and it sounds like they've made decisions based off of it. It had jumped to 0012 and you put out your view on it. I fell for it and bought a lot of it. Lost right at 50% at this point. I'll not try stock market again. I've learned, okay, keep in mind, learned. They think they've learned. Hint, wink, wink. I have learned a lot about pump and dump stuff and so much more the last few weeks. Should have studied how stocks, I didn't even see that the first time I read through it. Should have studied how stocks worked first. I agree. You probably should have studied how stocks, but this, you're blaming my, okay. Where was it? How did I miss that the first time? Don, you're absolutely right. You should have learned how stocks work before you took money out of your savings and put them into a penny stock. I will agree, you did. That is a proper lesson to learn. I will give Don that. Politicians, pumpers. Wow, first time I bought a stock and last time. Way over my head. Didn't realize this is a game played by the ones who know how to take others' money. America, like believing in Santa Claus, is just all a big rip. Don, I hear Canada's nice. I hear, Nate, what else is nice? What are some other?
Puerto Rico's nice.
Puerto Rico, it's probably, right now in Michigan, there's snow outside all over the place. By the time this goes, this will still be. Anyways, but calling Santa Claus a big rip, I hope nobody's kids are in the room, Don. I'm happy for you, though. You figured out how to survive. I didn't have to invest, so this one's on me, not you. I will not sell this USMJ as I think someone else like you will come along and get more people to spend so I can sell it at what I paid rather than give it away. I have noticed that all stocks go up and down, so this should also. Thanks for the $6,000 education. You gave what I thought was good news on this company and I bought. Today I see someone post bad news. I guess this is a trick to get people to sell. See my dilemma? Who can I trust to be teaching me this stuff? Oh, Don. Don. Let me get my marker. The key number here, let's just focus on, is $6,000. As that is what, from my understanding, they were down. So in all actuality, with this current person's mindset, that number's probably going to get worse. But we'll just call it, and we'll just assume that it's a $6,000 loss. And what did they do? Well, they said, that was the cost of education. And this is what really summarizes the problem with and how free is not free. Because let's think about this. And I get what this person's talking about. I see it all the time. Customer service chat, new people in the chat room itself, just in general. Well, have you ever heard any sound bites? Well, you really learn from the losers. The losing trades, that's where you learn your valuable lessons. Really? Because when you're new and you don't know what you don't know, how exactly do you even know what lesson to learn? Now, yeah, there's a lesson, well, I probably shouldn't have done that because it lost me money. Maybe, but can you see the problem here is the logic for that goes, okay, loss, that's, when you're new, losses, that's just kind of a cost of doing business, a cost of learning the ropes, a cost of it, however you want to phrase it. But then the next question with this becomes, okay, yeah, you that is a part of education, but what actually was the conclusion? Meaning, what did you draw, what did you learn from this quote unquote educational experience? And as you saw here, this person just spent $6,000 to reach the conclusions that they shared in the email. Were any of those conclusions even remotely to being correct? Except the one about he probably should have learned about how stocks work before doing all this. Besides that, think about what he ultimately withdrew from all this. It was somebody else's problem. I was the cause of all this. And I, somehow manipulated or just whatever. I'm not exactly sure. But it was very evident that what they learned, their conclusion with the $6,000 loss is that I somehow took advantage of them in the situation. And, that was the conclusion. And then their other conclusion was, but I'm not going to sell yet because all stocks go back up. Have you heard that one before? Especially from penny stock people. Don, this is not Pepsi. This is not Coca-Cola. It's not Microsoft. There's no guarantee. And even on those stocks, there's no guarantee that they would ever go back up. But this is a penny stock, Don. This is not like a blue chip company that you grabbed your savings and put it into. So to think that in their mind, they just had a $6,000 education, and then these are what they shared with us? Those are the conclusions? That's actually a very, very scary thing. Now, let's also look at the investment into the education and look at some numbers here about why it's actually very worth it. And before I forget, I should note that this is not strictly a sales pitch. When I got involved in real estate investing, and I've done videos on this, I spent close to $5,000 on my education because for me, what I'm going to talk about here is exactly why I wanted to do that. And the main form, I didn't necessarily invest in my education for real estate investing to make money. I wanted to make sure that I was not doing anything stupid because a penny saved is a penny earned. And in many ways, I think I would argue that having that knowledge of when to avoid a situation when it's actually a bad thought process, that's just as, if not more important, than actually having a thought process that will lead to actually making money. Don't get me wrong, yes, both are valuable, but sometimes you almost wonder, because remember, the best trade you can make in many situations is no trade at all. But you got to know when you should be avoiding situations. So think about this. And like I said, to assign some numbers here, and I'm not saying you should buy my course, but this is certainly a sales pitch for just investing into your education in general. I'd love it if you invested into my course, but if there's somebody else you feel more comfortable with or whatever, then cool, go with them. At least you're investing into a course. But if it's a quality program, if it's quality education that you're getting, then you're gonna learn, and I will definitely state a guarantee here for mine, because I can obviously speak to what I offer, but mine is, we'll just round it up to $2,000. That is the cost of my Clay Trader University program. So $2,000. The one thing I can guarantee is if Don had just invested the $2,000 into my program, he would not have found himself in this situation. He would not have been approaching the market in this manner. He would not have thought that his thought process was actually a valid sequence of events. He would have avoided this situation altogether. Now, that's not even a very bold proclamation on my end, because like I said, this is a very extreme situation. But remember, if it can get this extreme, where are all the little gray areas in your potential approach, your potential thought process towards the market, towards trading? Like I said, when you don't know what you don't know, you're gonna lose money, yes, but that doesn't even, when you don't know, how does that even mean, there's no guarantee that you're actually gonna learn the proper lesson from the loss in the first place, as we saw here. But like I said, I will guarantee, I can't guarantee that if you spend the $2,000, you're gonna make money hand over fist and be swimming like Scrooge McDuck in a pile of coins. But in this situation, I 100% guarantee he would not have been in this situation. Which means what? If he's not in that situation, then he's never lost that $6,000, right? Which means he still has that $6,000 in his pocket. Hence, Benjamin Franklin, a penny saved is a penny earned. So let's think about this math. He still has $6,000. Now, to be fair though, he did still have to spend the $2,000 to avoid that. So net, so let's subtract out the $2,000 there. He's still $4,000 ahead, right? So think about that. $4,000 ahead by spending the $2,000. So if you want to look at that from a return on investment perspective, I won't insult your intelligence there, but you look at there, 4,000 or double 2,000 is 4,000, right? Which is, if you double something, that would just be an 100% move. So Don would have gotten 100% return on investment had he invested into my program here. Sure, he didn't get it in the sense of making the $6,000, but he made it in the sense of knowing when to avoid certain situations, when to step away and say, that's not the way I should be approaching this situation. And that gets lost in the shuffle a lot. And a lot of times people don't even tell that in their education. So that's why I say, if you feel comfortable with somebody else, that's fine. But I will say that within what I offer, that's a big part of it is, should you even be in the trade? Should you even be thinking about taking that trade? Because like I said, there is a third order type out there. You have the buy, the sell, and you have the do nothing button. And many times people never focus on the do nothing button, because I get it, that's not quite as sexy. It's much more sexy from a marketing perspective to say, look at all that, invest in this and you're gonna make all this money. What about, if I say, invest in this and you're gonna avoid certain situations? What kind of market? No, that's not. But remember, now I'm not saying I'm the only one that focuses on this, to be fair, but my point is, I know that I will give you that as part of your education. Yeah, of how to make money, how to manage a trade after you get in, and all that good stuff. But sometimes you shouldn't even be in the trade, because that's how the math works out on this. So just by simply avoiding something, Don, you could have had 100% return on your money. And also, you would have actually had a valid education. But now, Don, you're down $6,000 and you didn't even get a proper education. In fact, now you have that many more false misconceptions. So this is a breeding of bad habits. So you are paying to breed bad habits. You are paying to breed faulty and misconceptions. And if that's not kind of just a spiral down the toilet, I don't know what is. But that's what happens all the time. And I see it. Somebody tells me about a loss they took, and they give me all these reasons on why. And I just have to sit there and say, no, that's actually not why you lost. That's not the lesson that you should have learned. All the time. And and here's the thing is, once you learn and once you exit out of the stage of, well, I don't know what I don't know, then you've seen this too. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody on social media, somebody on, anywhere, and they're explaining or they're telling you in one way or another, just telling kind of the general public their reasoning for, why they lost and the lessons learned. And you're just sitting there saying, now that you lost money, and not only did you lose money, what you think you learned is actually not what you should have learned from the situation. So it literally is a double whammy. Lost money, wrong learning example. I guess a triple whammy, because with the wrong learning example, now you're gonna just take that and that's gonna spiral out of control with more bad habits. And then it really is a vicious cycle when I stop and think about it. And that's why I wanted to invest in my real estate education, because of course I wanna learn how to make money in real estate, but you get in a bad deal in real estate, if you're putting yourself in a situation that you should have never been in, those numbers in real estate are a whole lot bigger than trading. So this is not simply a sales pitch on my end. I do believe investing into your education. I've done it myself. And I really hope that you consider it. Not only consider just investing in how the numbers truly can work in your favor, but also just the general concept of making sure any education you are looking at is covering both forms of knowledge. Sure, the knowledge of how to make money, but are they really focusing on the risk analysis perspective of, should you even be in the trade? Should you even be thinking about taking the trade? Because that has a large bearing on things and also pays the return on investment. So Don, I do wish you all the best. I highly doubt you watch this, but you definitely didn't learn the right lessons that you should think you did. Your conclusions were way off, and I do wish you all the best. But I think that's all I wanted to say. But yeah, 100% return on investment, not too shabby. If you are out there trading alone currently and maybe are in the market looking for a community to join to assist you in your trading or to just help you, give you another set of eyeballs, then I do have a private trading community where you can trade alongside me and other experienced traders. So what you see popping up on the screen right now is both an information link. So if you click on the inner circle one, that is going to take you to the page where I explain all the details of what exactly come with the community, both the chat room and the newsletter. And then the other image that has popped up is a behind the scenes tour where you can see exactly what is going to be contained within the community. I take you through, like I said, a behind the scenes tour of everything, and that way you'll know precisely what you are getting when you join. So definitely check that stuff out if you are interested and thinking about wanting to join a community, and let me know if you have any questions.